Wow, the internet. They've got that here. It used to be on top of Big Ben. I guess you guys have borrowed it. They have everything here. Wow. What's this? There's a
Don't touch that switch.
this. Why? What could it possibly do?
It's a Macintosh Nano.
It's April Apples 2024.
Hey gang, welcome to Marcintosh. In honor of April Apples, I thought we'd head up to Hunt Valley, Maryland and visit our friend Bob at the Computer Museum at System Source. We're going to visit Bob and talk to him about his vintage Apple I he's got, his working Apple I replica, a working Apple III, and he'll talk to us a little bit about a special Apple II he has on display. So let's head up to Hunt Valley and see what Bob has to say. Hey Bob, what do you have for us today?
Hi, Mark. Today we have a replica that works of an Apple I.
Nice.
You'll see in a minute we have a real Apple I, but
Okay.
because of the market value of those, we try not to turn them on willy-nilly. So in 1976, Apple Computer was born. Three gentlemen started Apple on the 1st of April. Steve Wozniak had a brilliant design here. He was able to take a computer, put it all on one board, and in addition to having the computer, he has all the circuitry to drive a television set, which you were assumed to already have. You might not want to spend $1,000 for a used teletype or buying your own terminal. So with this, we hook it up to our television set.
Okay, cool. I see that Woz has signed that.
Yeah, so Steve is a great guy. He came here to Baltimore a couple years ago for the Stevenson Speaker Series, and I was able to walk up to him and bring him our Apple I replica and our Apple II, which he signed for us.
That's really cool. So, what can you do with the Apple I? I know it doesn't have software per se like we know it today, but what is there anything in it now? I mean, it doesn't have a hard drive, of course, and
So when it comes up, it has a ROM monitor so that I can type in a program in machine code.
okay.
I can do that natively.
Okay.
For $75 extra, we could buy a cassette interface.
Okay.
When we play the cassette, it makes two sounds, sounding very much like a fax machine. And from that, we can load BASIC that Wozniak wrote.
Okay.
And then we can program in BASIC 4K of memory, integer BASIC,
Okay.
but you can really get down and do it. There were also a variety of other cassettes
Okay.
that you could load with programs written in machine language.
That's pretty cool.
As a practical computer, I don't think we're there until we get to the Apple II.
Exactly. And Bob, can you tell us about this Apple I you have over here?
Sure. So this is known as the Rick Conti Apple. Rick Conti was a consumer who purchased this from the Byte Shop in the initial order of 50 Apple I's.
Wow.
Rick, when you bought the Apple I, you just got the board here. Rick bought a briefcase, his own power supply, which is underneath the keyboard, and the keyboard mounted this together so he could just plug this in. There's a power cord in it.
Okay.
And then hook it up to a television set or a monitor,
Wow.
thereby making this the first Apple portable computer.
That's really cool. And where would one find a keyboard back in 1976 when there weren't that many computer keyboards around that I would think of? So where would you find
So you had plenty of terminals. There were
terminals, of
there
course.
were computer magazines.
Okay.
From mainframe and mini computer days.
Got it.
You would go back into the back of a magazine and see that Cherry or whoever was making the keyboards.
Okay.
And you would order one. So it's not as widespread. Obviously, there was no internet. So
Yeah.
you weren't getting them overnight from the Amazon ferries.
Exactly.
But you could certainly order keyboards that were.
Okay.
I wouldn't be surprised if standard like an ADM 3A
Oh,
A
okay.
terminal like that might have used that keyboard.
Got it. And was it easy to hook it up to the Apple One? Was a standardized connection or?
So the connection is pretty weird. There's a cable that just plugs into it's pretty primitive.
Okay.
It just plugs right into the spare slot right over there.
Okay.
So you can look on our replica. We have the keyboard hooked into just an IC holder.
Okay, got it.
Have the 16-pin connector and plug it in.
That's pretty cool. Hey, Bob, what can you tell me about the Tempest Mac, the SE30 you have over here?
Sure. So how did we get it? Collecting is kind of fun.
Yeah.
We were very lucky. There's a fellow Bruce, who runs DigiBarn. He had a large number of the artifacts that are now here in our museum in his barn in California.
Okay.
Great guy, did a tremendous job documenting and collecting computers. The barn, however, is not the greatest storage location. Number one is it was not airtight, so you can see the daylight through it when you visit the barn. And he had at least one very close call with the California wildfires.
Oh, boy.
So in 2021, we packed up DigiBarn, and it's on indefinite loan here at System Source.
What can you tell us about the Apple III you have on display?
The Apple III. It's an Apple III. It was obviously the third major computer that Apple came out with. At the time and even today, most computers need some form of cooling. One of the interesting things about the Apple III is Steve Jobs did not want a fan in it. They were and are annoying, make sound. So you'll notice when you look around the back of the Apple III, a large metal radiator.
Okay.
Unfortunately, it didn't work so well. So Apple IIIs were notorious for overheating and having thermal intermittencies.
Okay.
So one of the first Apple IIIs we sold was to McCormick, the spice company. They're right around here. In fact, they were the original developer of this building.
Oh, wow.
And they took the Apple III down to a spice factory in Central America,
Oh.
which was not an air-conditioned facility. And I would get calls about how to fix the Apple III remotely back in the early days. The Apple III was an 80-column, had 80 columns, whereas the Apple I and Apple II were only 40 columns.
Okay.
It had upper and lower case, was meant to be their business computer, but didn't really make it,
Yeah.
and was not one of Apple's better
Yeah.
products. They learned a lot.
Bob, thanks for having us up today.
Sure.
Bob, thank you so much for having Mark and I up that day. We had a fun time hanging out with you and the gang, seeing all your cool stuff, and we plan to see you again real soon, hopefully at the May 17th open house you're going to have next month. But while we only focus on the Apple products, they've got everything there from abacuses to supercomputers. They've got Cray systems over there. They've got all vacuum tube computers from the 50s. They've even got a mainframe from NASA that was used to communicate with the Apollo spacecraft. It's really cool. You will love that place if you go and visit them. So gang, if you're in the Hunt Valley area on May 17th, sign up for the open house they're going to have. They're going to try to revive the actual Apple I, the real Apple I, and see if they can get it up and running again. That'd be really cool. I'll have the museum's website in the links below, so go check them out. So that about wraps it up for this one. Thanks for watching. Take care.
Smash that like button. Smash it good. For cool t-shirts like this and more, visit the Vapid Store. Not a vape store.